In the far future, humanity had spread across the stars. They built cities on distant planets and mined resources from asteroids. But their dreams of freedom ended when the Vorinth arrived. The Vorinth were an alien race with sleek black bodies, glowing eyes, and sharp claws. Their leader, the alien queen, ruled with terrifying power. Her mind could control anyone who came near her. No one dared to defy her. Not humans, not even other aliens. Kale was just another face in this oppressed galaxy. He lived on a small mining outpost at the edge of Vorinth territory. The outpost was cold, dark, and filled with machines that never stopped working. Kale spent his days fixing broken equipment and avoiding trouble. He wasn't brave or strong. He was just trying to survive. But deep down, he hated the Queen. Every night, he dreamed of a world where humans weren't slaves to the Vorinth. One day, while repairing a tunnel wall, Kale noticed something unusual. The rock seemed different here, shiny and smooth, unlike the rough stone around it. Curious, he chipped away at the surface. Slowly, a hidden door appeared. It looked ancient, covered in strange symbols no one had seen before. Kale hesitated for a moment. What if someone found out? But his curiosity won over fear. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room beyond was dimly lit by faint blue light. In the center stood a crystalline object about the size of his hand. It pulsed softly, as if alive. Kale reached out and touched it. Instantly, images flooded his mind. He saw the alien queen as a young ruler, standing tall and proud among her people. She spoke of peace and unity, promising a better future for all species. But then things changed. Betrayal tore her apart. Anger consumed her. She became the cruel tyrant everyone feared today. As the visions faded, Kale realized something else. The object gave him strength. For the first time, he felt like he could think clearly without the Queen's influence clouding his mind. It was as if the artifact shielded him from her powers. His heart raced with excitement and fear. If the Vorinth discovered what he had found, they would kill him instantly. Suddenly, alarms blared through the mine. Lights flashed red, and heavy footsteps echoed down the tunnels. Someone, or something, was coming. Kale grabbed the artifact and ran. He didn't know how or why, but he knew one thing for sure. This tiny crystal might be the key to freeing the galaxy from the alien queen's grip, and maybe, just maybe, he could be the one to use it. Breathing hard, Kale ducked into a narrow passage. The voices of Vorinth drones grew louder behind him. He clutched the artifact tightly, its warmth giving him courage. For the first time in years, Kale felt hope. But hope came with danger. If he wanted to fight back, he would have to risk everything, including his life. Little did Kale know, this discovery would change not only his fate but the entire galaxy's. Kale's heart pounded as he pressed himself against the cold, damp wall of the narrow tunnel. The Vorinth drones were close now, their metallic footsteps echoing louder with each passing second. He could hear them talking in their guttural language, though he didn't understand the words. One thing was clear, they were searching for him. Clutching the glowing artifact tightly in his hand, Kale tried to steady his breathing. His mind raced. How had they known? Had someone seen him enter the hidden chamber? Or was it the artifact itself that drew their attention? Whatever the reason, there was no time to think. Survival came first. The artifact pulsed faintly, almost like it was alive. Kale glanced at it, unsure whether to trust it fully. But when two Vorinth drones turned into the tunnel ahead of him, he had no choice. As they raised their weapons, Kale instinctively held up the artifact. A bright flash erupted from it, blinding the drones momentarily. Their movement slowed, and then they froze completely, as if stuck in time. For a moment, Kale just stared, stunned. What had he done? The artifact hadn't just blinded them. It had somehow disrupted the Queen's control over her minions. Without her psychic commands, the drones were useless. Kale realized this small object might be more powerful than he'd imagined. But using it came at a cost. After the burst of energy, Kale felt drained, his legs wobbling beneath him. His head throbbed with pain, and fragments of strange memories flashed through his mind. Images of screaming aliens, burning planets, and the Queen's cold, unfeeling eyes. Shaking his head to clear the visions, Kale forced himself to move. He couldn't stay here. He slipped past the frozen drones and made his way deeper into the mines, looking for an exit. Along the way, he noticed something odd. Other workers, the humans enslaved by the Vorinth, seemed confused. They wandered aimlessly, freed from the Queen's mental grip thanks to the artifact's interference. Some looked scared. Others seemed relieved. Kale wanted to stop and explain, but he knew he couldn't afford to slow down. Finally, he reached the surface. Bursting out into the open air, Kale took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of freedom, even if it was temporary. The outpost loomed behind him, its towering structures casting long shadows under the dim light of the distant sun. Somewhere far away, the alien queen would already know something was wrong. She would send more drones, maybe even come herself. Kale didn't have much time. That night, hiding in a rocky crevice, Kale studied the artifact again. It glowed softly in his hands, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. He focused on it, trying to understand how it worked. Slowly, he began to feel different. His thoughts sharpened, and he sensed things he hadn't before. A faint hum in the air, whispers carried by the wind. It was as if the artifact was teaching him, unlocking hidden abilities within himself. But these new powers scared him too. Every time he used the artifact, the voices in his head grew louder. They weren't his own thoughts. They belonged to people who had suffered under the Queen's rule. Their pain became his pain. Their fear became his fear. Despite the danger, Kale couldn't ignore what the artifact offered. It gave him strength, clarity, and most importantly, immunity to the Queen's mind control. If he could master it, he might stand a chance against her. But mastering it wouldn't be easy. Each use left him weaker, closer to collapse. And yet, he couldn't turn back now. As dawn broke, Kale stood up, determination hardening his expression. He didn't know where to go or whom to trust, but one thing was certain. The galaxy needed someone willing to fight back. And if no one else would do it, Kale would step forward, even if it meant risking everything. Little did he know, his journey was only beginning. Kale wandered alone for days, moving from one barren planet to another. The artifact remained clutched tightly in his hand, its faint glow guiding him through the darkness of space. He avoided populated areas, knowing the Vorinth would be searching for him. But staying hidden wasn't easy. Supplies were running low, and exhaustion gnawed at his body. Every step felt heavier than the last, not just because of physical fatigue, but also because of the constant whispers in his mind. The artifact's power was a double-edged sword. It gave him strength, but it also brought pain. One evening, as Kale rested near the ruins of an abandoned settlement, he heard footsteps. At first he thought it was his imagination, but then voices reached his ears. Human voices. His heart raced. Should he run? Or should he trust them? Before he could decide, a figure stepped out of the shadows. A woman with sharp features and battle-worn armor. Her piercing green eyes locked onto him, and her hand hovered over a weapon strapped to her side. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice firm but cautious. Kale hesitated. "I'm no one important," he stammered, clutching the artifact tighter. The woman raised an eyebrow. "You're carrying something that doesn't belong to you. That makes you important." Before Kale could respond, more figures emerged from the shadows. There were 5 of them, humans and aliens alike, all armed and wary. One of them, a tall alien with shimmering blue skin, stepped forward. His voice was calm but commanding. "We've been watching you, human. You disrupted the Queen's control on the outpost. We need to know why." Kale swallowed hard. These strangers didn't seem hostile, but they weren't exactly friendly either. Still, He had no choice but to explain. Slowly, he held up the artifact. Its glow illuminated the group's faces, revealing a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "This is what I found," Kale said. "It lets me resist the Queen's powers. Maybe it can help us fight back." The woman exchanged glances with the others before speaking again. "My name is Lyra. And this," she gestured to the blue-skinned alien, "is Zin. He used to work for the Queen until she betrayed him. We're part of a resistance group trying to take her down." Kale blinked, surprised. "There's a resistance." Lyra smirked. "Not a big one. Just enough to annoy her. But we've been waiting for someone like you. Someone who can stand against her without falling apart." Zin stepped closer, studying the artifact. "This object, where did you find it?" Kale told them about the hidden chamber in the mines and the visions he'd seen. As he spoke, Zin's expression grew darker. "I've heard legends of such artifacts," he murmured. "They're remnants of an ancient civilization that once challenged the Queen. If this is real, it could change everything." But Lyra wasn't convinced. "Change isn't always good," she warned. "Power like that comes with a price. Are you ready to pay it?" Kale nodded firmly. "I don't have a choice. If I don't try, nothing will ever change." Over the next few days, the group taught Cal how to use the artifact more effectively. They showed him techniques to focus its energy, helping him block the Queen's influence and even amplify his own mental abilities. But every lesson came with warnings. Lyra explained that the artifact could corrupt its user if misused. Zin shared stories of those who had gone mad after relying too heavily on similar relics. Despite their caution, Kale pushed himself harder. He practiced until his body ached and his mind felt like it might shatter. Yet, with each session, he grew stronger. He learned to sense the presence of Vorinth drones miles away, to disrupt their communications, and even to shield others from the Queen's commands. Through it all, Kale couldn't shake the feeling that the artifact was changing him, not just physically, but emotionally. The whispers in his head grew louder, pulling him deeper into the memories of the Queen's victims. Sometimes he saw glimpses of her past, her struggles, her losses, her descent into cruelty. It made him question whether she was truly evil or simply broken. As the group prepared to leave the ruins and head toward the Queen's fortress, Lyra approached Kale. "Remember," she said, her tone serious, "the artifact gives you power, but it doesn't make you invincible. Don't let it consume you." Kale looked at her, then at the glowing crystal in his hand. For the first time, he realized how fragile the line between hero and villain really was. With newfound allies by his side, Kale set off once more, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Kale and his newfound allies traveled across treacherous terrains, heading toward the alien Queen's fortress. The journey was long and dangerous, filled with narrow escapes and moments of doubt. Each step brought them closer to their goal, but also deeper into the Queen's territory. The air grew heavier as they approached her domain, as if her presence alone pressed down on the galaxy. Lyra took charge of planning their route. She knew the safest paths, hidden trails through asteroid fields, abandoned outposts where they could rest without drawing attention, and shortcuts that avoided Vorinth patrols. Her experience in the Resistance made her a natural leader, though her sharp tongue often left Kale feeling uneasy. "You're doing fine," she told him one night as they camped inside the wreckage of an old starship. "But don't get cocky. The artifact may shield you, but it won't save us all." Kale nodded silently, staring at the glowing crystal in his hands. He had grown more confident using its power, but the cost weighed heavily on him. Every time he tapped into its energy, the whispers in his mind grew louder. Fragments of memories, not his own, flashed before him. Screams of pain, images of destruction, and the cold, calculating gaze of the alien Queen. It was as if the artifact was feeding off his emotions, amplifying both his strength and his fears. Zin, the blue-skinned alien, noticed Cal's struggle. One evening, as the group huddled around a small fire, Zin sat beside him. His voice was calm, almost soothing, The artifact chooses its wielder carefully, he said. It tests your resolve, pushing you to your limits, but you must not let it control you. Remember who you are, Kale. Hold on to your humanity. Kale looked at Zin, grateful for the advice but unsure if he could follow it. How could he stay human when the artifact kept showing him the darkest parts of the Queen's reign? Sometimes he felt like he was losing himself, becoming something else entirely. As they neared the fortress, the group encountered new challenges. Vorinth drones patrolled the skies, scanning for intruders. Once, they barely escaped detection by hiding beneath a pile of rubble while a massive drone hovered overhead. Another time, they were ambushed by rogue scavengers who mistook them for easy prey. Lyra's quick reflexes saved them, her blaster cutting through the attackers before they could strike. Through it all, Kale relied on the artifact to guide them. Its glow revealed hidden dangers, a trapdoor disguised as solid ground, a cluster of mines buried under sand, and helped them disable Vorinth technology. But every use drained him further, leaving him pale and trembling. The others began to worry. He's pushing too hard, Lyra muttered to Zin during one of their breaks. If he keeps this up, he won't make it to the fortress. Zin sighed. We can't stop him. This is his burden to carry. All we can do is support him. Despite their concerns, Kale refused to slow down. He knew the stakes. If they failed, the galaxy would remain under the Queen's rule forever. And so, they pressed on, inching closer to their destination. Finally, after weeks of travel, they reached the edge of the Queen's empire. From a rocky ridge, they gazed upon her fortress, a towering structure of black metal and shimmering glass, surrounded by endless fields of ash and smoke. Lightning crackled in the sky above, casting an eerie glow over the land. This is it, Lyra said, her voice low. Once we go in, there's no turning back. Kale tightened his grip on the artifact. His heart raced, but his resolve hardened. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to face it. With a final glance at his companions, Kale led the way down the ridge, stepping into the shadow of the fortress. The battle for freedom had begun. The fortress loomed ahead, its jagged spires piercing the dark, stormy sky. Lightning illuminated the structure in bursts, revealing its cold, menacing design. Kale and his companions paused at the edge of the ash-covered plain, their breaths visible in the freezing air. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder and the faint hum of energy shields surrounding the fortress. This place feels alive, Lyra muttered, her hand resting on her blaster. Like it's watching us. Kale nodded, gripping the artifact tightly. He could feel its warmth pulsing against his palm, as if it too sensed the danger ahead. For a moment, he closed his eyes, letting the artifact guide him. Images flooded his mind. Blueprints of the fortress, hidden passages, and weak points in the Queen's defenses. When he opened his eyes again, he felt a surge of determination. There's a way in, he whispered. Follow me. The group moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows as they approached the fortress. Kale led them to a service entrance partially buried under debris. Using the artifact, he disabled the security system, causing the heavy metal door to slide open with a low groan. They slipped inside, stepping into a dimly lit corridor lined with glowing veins of alien technology. Inside, the fortress was eerily quiet. The walls pulsed faintly, mimicking the rhythm of a heartbeat. Every step echoed loudly, making them all tense. Zen motioned for silence as they crept forward, his sharp eyes scanning for traps or guards. Stay close, he warned. This place is designed to confuse intruders. One wrong turn, and we'll be trapped. Kale focused on the artifact, using its energy to sense dangers ahead. It guided them through twisting hallways and past locked doors that slid open at his touch. But every use left him weaker, his vision blurring and his legs trembling. Still, he pushed on, knowing they couldn't afford to stop. As they ventured deeper, the group encountered their first real obstacle, a squad of Vorinth drones patrolling a wide chamber. Their glowing eyes scanned the area methodically, weapons ready. Kale signaled for the others to wait while he stepped forward, raising the artifact. With a burst of energy, he disrupted the drone's connection to the Queen. They froze mid-step, immobilized. "That's impressive," Lyra said, joining him. "But you're shaking. Are you okay?" "I'll manage," Kale replied through gritted teeth. He didn't have time to rest. Not here. They pressed on, navigating increasingly complex sections of the fortress. Along the way, Kale began experiencing vivid visions, not just of the Queen's past, but of her present thoughts. He saw flashes of her sitting on her throne, her mind reaching out across the galaxy, sensing disturbances in her empire. She knew they were coming. Finally, they reached a massive set of double doors, adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to shift when stared at too long. Beyond these doors lay the throne room, the heart of the fortress. Kale hesitated, feeling the weight of what awaited him. "We're not just fighting her," Zin said softly. "We're fighting everything she stands for. Fear, control, oppression. Don't lose sight of why we're here." Kale nodded, steeling himself. He raised the artifact, focusing its power on the doors. With a deafening crack, they split apart, revealing the throne room beyond. It was unlike anything they had expected. The chamber stretched endlessly upward, its ceiling lost in shadow. Bioluminescent veins pulsed along the walls, casting an otherworldly glow. At the center stood the alien Queen, her towering form surrounded by swirling energy. Her eyes locked onto Kale instantly, filled with both curiosity and fury. "So," she said, her voice resonating like thunder, "you are the one who defies me." Kale took a step forward, clutching the artifact tightly. "Yes," he replied, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "And I'm not alone." Behind him, Lyra and Zin readied their weapons, standing shoulder to shoulder with Kale. The final battle was about to begin. The throne room was alive with energy, the air crackling as if charged by an invisible storm. The alien Queen stood tall, her sleek black form radiating power. Her glowing eyes pierced through Kale, reading him like an open book. Around her, tendrils of light swirled and danced, connecting her to the fortress itself. It was as if the entire structure obeyed her will. "You dare challenge me," the Queen said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Do you even understand what I have sacrificed for this galaxy? Order requires sacrifice. Peace demands control." Kale tightened his grip on the artifact, its warmth steadying him. "Your peace is built on fear," he shot back. "That's not peace, it's oppression." The Queen tilted her head, studying him. "And yet, here you are, wielding the tool of chaos. Tell me, human, do you think this relic makes you better than me? Or does it simply make you another fool chasing destruction?" Before Kale could respond, the Queen raised a hand. A wave of psychic energy surged toward them, forcing the group to scatter. Lyra fired her blaster, but the shots dissolved harmlessly against the Queen's protective barrier. Zin hurled a plasma grenade, which exploded near her feet, but she didn't flinch. Kale knew brute force wouldn't work. He focused on the artifact, channeling its power into a shield around himself and his allies. The Queen's attacks rebounded off the barrier, giving them precious moments to regroup. "Her connection to the fortress gives her strength," Zin shouted over the chaos. "We need to sever that link." "How?" Kale asked, struggling to maintain the shield. "The core. Look for the source of her energy." Kale scanned the room, spotting a pulsating orb suspended above the Queen's head. It glowed brighter with every second, feeding her immense power. If they could destroy it, they might weaken her enough to fight back. Summoning every ounce of strength, Kale unleashed a burst of energy from the artifact. The beam struck the orb, causing it to flicker. The Queen screamed, a sound that shook the very foundations of the fortress. "You cannot win," she roared, her calm demeanor cracking. "This galaxy will descend into ruin without me." Lyra and Zin took advantage of the distraction, firing everything they had at the orb. Cracks began to form on its surface, glowing veins spreading outward like fractures in glass. The Queen retaliated fiercely, sending waves of energy that knocked Kel off his feet. His vision blurred, and pain seared through his body. "Kel, get up," Lyra yelled, pulling him to his feet. "You're the only one who can finish this." With trembling hands, Kel pushed himself forward. The artifact pulsed wildly in his grasp, its whispers growing deafening. He saw flashes of the Queen's memories, her early days as a hopeful leader, her betrayal by those she trusted, her descent into tyranny. For a moment, he hesitated. Was she truly evil or just broken? But then he remembered the faces of everyone she had oppressed. The miners, the rebels, the countless lives crushed under her rule. This wasn't about revenge, it was about freedom. "I'm sorry," Kel whispered, raising the artifact one last time. A blinding explosion erupted as the orb shattered, severing the Queen's connection to the fortress. She stumbled, her once imposing figure now fragile and vulnerable. The swirling lights around her faded, leaving her alone in the vast chamber. "You don't know what you've done," she murmured, sinking to her knees. Her glowing eyes dimmed, and for a brief moment she looked almost human. Then, with a final shudder, she collapsed. The fortress trembled violently, its systems failing without the Queen's presence. Alarms blared, warning of imminent collapse. "We need to go, now," Zyle urged, grabbing Kel's arm. As they ran toward the exit, Kel glanced back at the fallen Queen. Victory felt hollow. Had they saved the galaxy, or unleashed something worse? The fortress was collapsing around them, its once mighty walls crumbling into dust. Kel and his companions sprinted through the chaos, dodging falling debris and leaping over cracks that split the ground beneath their feet. The air was thick with smoke and the deafening roar of destruction. Every step felt like it could be their last, but they didn't stop, not until they burst out into the open air. Behind them, the fortress imploded in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves rippling across the ash-covered plain. For a moment, no one spoke. They stood there, catching their breath, staring at the ruins of the alien Queen's empire. It was over. After centuries of oppression, the galaxy was finally free. But Kel didn't feel triumphant. His body ached from exhaustion, and his mind was heavy with unanswered questions. He looked down at the artifact still clutched in his hand. Its glow had dimmed, almost as if it too was tired. Yet the whispers remained, faint but persistent, urging him to listen. "What happens now?" Lyra asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, uncertain, a rare vulnerability in someone usually so strong. Kel shook his head. "I don't know. We've taken down the Queen. But is the galaxy really free? Or have we just created a void for something worse to fill?" Zin stepped forward, his blue skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. "Freedom isn't a destination, Kel. It's a process. What matters now is what we do next. Will we rebuild, or will we let fear divide us again?" Kel nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in his heart. He glanced back at the smoking ruins one last time before turning away. Whatever came next, he knew he couldn't face it alone. The group began their journey back toward safer territories, moving cautiously through the desolate landscape. Along the way, they encountered others, survivors who had lived under the Queen's rule. Some cheered when they heard the news of her defeat. Others were skeptical, unsure how to trust anyone after years of oppression. Kel listened to their stories, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. At night, as the others rested, Kel sat apart, staring at the artifact. It pulsed faintly, as if alive, and the whispers grew louder. He saw flashes of distant stars, alien worlds, and civilizations untouched by the Vorinth. But mixed with those visions were darker images, shadows moving between galaxies, ancient forces stirring in the void. "Why won't you leave me alone?" Kel muttered, clutching the artifact tightly. A voice answered, not in words, but in feelings. The artifact wasn't just a tool, it was a guide. And it wanted him to keep going. When they finally reached a rebel outpost, the survivors greeted them as heroes. Fires burned brightly in the camp, and laughter filled the air for the first time in decades. People celebrated their newfound freedom, but Kel couldn't join them. He wandered to the edge of the camp, gazing at the horizon. Lyra found him there. "You did good, Kel," she said gently, "but you look like you're carrying the weight of the galaxy on your shoulders." "I am," Kel replied. "This artifact, it's not done with me yet. There's more out there, bigger threats. I can feel it." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll face them together. You're not alone anymore." For the first time in days, Kel allowed himself a small smile. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. The fight wasn't over. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Kel stood tall. In his hand, the artifact glowed softly, a reminder of both the power he wielded and the burden he carried. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them, not as a hero or a villain, but as someone willing to try. And so, with hope and determination burning in his heart, Kel took his first step into an uncertain future.